My name is Violet, 32 years old, and I'm a real estate attorney in New York. I worked my entire life to purchase my dream penthouse in Manhattan. My parents never appreciated my independence, always favoring my sister. But even I couldn't have predicted what happened at Sophia's wedding. When my mother slapped me in front of 50 guests, my diamond earring flying across the room, I knew something had to change. That day marked the beginning of a revenge plan that would transform our family forever. Before I tell you what happened after my earring flew across the reception hall, let me know where you're watching from. And hit that subscribe button. If you've ever dealt with entitled family members too, I grew up in a modest neighborhood in Boston where every day was a reminder that I wasn't the favorite child. My parents, Richard and Diana, made no effort to hide their preference for my younger sister, Sophia. She was 4 years younger, naturally charming, and seemingly perfect in their eyes. Sophia got a B on her math test. Let's celebrate with ice cream, my father would announce proudly. Meanwhile, my straight-A report card would be met with a casual nod and a dismissive, "That's what we expect from you, Violet." This pattern continued throughout our childhood. Sophia's minor achievements were celebrated as monumental victories, while my accomplishments were treated as obligations. I learned early on that if I wanted anything in life, I would have to earn it myself. By 16, I was working part-time at a local cafe while maintaining my perfect GPA. My parents rarely attended my academic competitions or award ceremonies. "We trust you'll do fine without us," my mother would say while never missing a single one of Sophia's dance recitals. When I was accepted to Harvard Law School with a partial scholarship, my parents' response was lukewarm at best. "Law school isn't that going to be difficult?" my mother asked, frowning. "Wouldn't you prefer something less stressful?" "And expensive," my father added. "We can't help much financially, we're saving for Sophia's college fund." So I worked 3 jobs. I served coffee in the mornings, tutored undergrads in the afternoons, and waited tables on weekends. I graduated in the top 5% of my class, despite the exhaustion. After law school, I landed a position at a prestigious firm in New York City, specializing in real estate law. Within 5 years, I had built a reputation working with high-profile clients and developers. My career trajectory was steep, my client list impressive. Yet during holiday phone calls, my parents would barely ask about my work, before shifting the conversation to Sophia's latest boyfriend or vacation. When I turned 30, I achieved my biggest dream, purchasing a penthouse in Manhattan. It wasn't just any apartment. It was a corner unit with floor-to-ceiling windows, a private terrace overlooking Central Park, and the kind of kitchen that would make a chef jealous. I had worked countless hours, saved aggressively, and negotiated brilliantly to make it happen. This place was more than property. It was a testament to my independence and success. I invited my family to my housewarming party, hoping finally for some recognition. They came, but their reaction was far from what I'd hoped. "It's awfully showy, isn't it?" my mother commented, running her finger along my marble countertop. "And in such a dangerous city. I don't know why you'd spend so much money on something so unnecessary." My father wandered around with a critical eye. "The maintenance fees must be astronomical. Not a very practical financial decision, Violet." Even Sophia seemed uncomfortable, though I suspected it was more because of our parents than any jealousy on her part. Later that year, Sophia met Jackson Williams at a friend's gallery opening. He came from a wealthy family that owned several hotels along the East Coast. Within 6 months, they were engaged, and suddenly my parents had a new focus for their attention: the wedding. "It's going to be the event of the season," my mother gushed during one of our rare phone calls. "The Williams are very well connected, you know." What followed was a barrage of hints that I should contribute financially to this extravaganza. After all, I was the successful sister with the fancy job. The requests started small suggestions that I might want to pay for the flowers or the cake, but they quickly escalated. "Sophia really has her heart set on the Bellevue Gardens for the reception," my mother mentioned casually one day. "But it's a bit out of our price range, since you're not married and don't have to save for your own wedding." I knew what she was doing, but part of me still yearned for their approval. So against my better judgment, I agreed to pay for the venue, an exclusive estate on Long Island with magnificent gardens and a ballroom that could accommodate 200 guests. It cost more than I should have spent, but I told myself it was my gift to Sophia. Deep down, I hoped it might finally earn me some appreciation from my parents. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, the tension grew. Each time I spoke with my family, there seemed to be a new expectation, a new demand. My mother called daily with updates on wedding plans I had no part in despite my financial contribution. My father sent emails about the importance of family unity and supporting your sister during this special time. What they didn't know was that I was in the middle of the biggest case of my career, representing a major client in a complex commercial real estate transaction. The stress was mounting, but any mention of my work was met with disinterest or comments like, "Well, at least one of you girls is married." The day before the wedding, I received a strange text from Sophia. "We need to talk tomorrow before the ceremony. It's important." I tried calling her back, but she didn't answer. An uneasy feeling settled in my stomach, but I chalked it up to pre-wedding jitters. Little did I know the stage was being set for a confrontation that would change everything. The morning of Sophia's wedding dawned bright and clear, a perfect May day, with just enough breeze to rustle the cherry blossoms at Bellevue Gardens. I arrived early, makeup case and emergency kit in hand, ready to help my sister prepare for her big day. The bridal suite was a flurry of activity hairstylists, makeup artists, and bridesmaids in matching silk robes bustling about. Sophia sat in front of a gilded mirror, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "Violet, thank goodness you're here," she said, jumping up to hug me. For a moment, she clung to me tighter than usual. "I need to talk to you about something." Before she could continue, our mother swept into the room in a cloud of expensive perfume and anxiety. "Sophia, the florist needs to know immediately about the last-minute centerpiece changes." And Violet, there you are. "Your hair looks a bit flat, dear. Didn't you have time to style it properly?" I bit my tongue and smiled. "Good morning to you too, Mom. Don't worry about my hair today, is about Sophia." My sister shot me a grateful look as I helped her back into her chair. For the next hour, as the makeup artist worked her magic, Sophia and I fell into a comfortable rhythm of conversation that reminded me of our childhood before competition and favoritism had created distance between us. "Remember when we used to dress up in Mom's clothes and pretend we were going to fancy parties?" Sophia laughed as the makeup artist applied her mascara. "And how we'd borrow her lipsticks and end up with it all over our faces," I added, feeling a rare moment of connection. Our mother returned just as we were sharing this nostalgic moment. She hovered behind us, adjusting Sophia's veil with exaggerated care. "You know Violet Jackson's cousin Adam is single. He's a financial analyst in the city. Quite successful, too. Perhaps you could make an effort today. 32 is getting rather late to be so focused on just your career." There it was, the familiar sting of her disapproval wrapped in a suggestion. "I'm quite happy with my life, Mom," I replied evenly, helping Sophia with her earrings, a pair of diamond drops that matched my own. Not everyone measures success by marital status. Diana pursed her lips, but was distracted by the arrival of the photographer. As she bustled away to direct the photo session, Sophia grabbed my hand. "I'm sorry. She shouldn't talk to you like that, especially after you've been so generous with the venue." I squeezed her hand. "It's your day. Don't worry about me." Throughout the ceremony preparations, I noticed my parents huddled together several times, whispering, and then glancing in my direction. Once I caught my father showing my mother something on his phone, both of them nodding with a strange determination. Whenever I approached, they would abruptly change the subject. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Bellevue Gardens provided a stunning backdrop with its manicured lawns and flowering arbors. Sophia looked radiant, walking down the aisle on our father's arm. Jackson waited at the altar, beaming with undisguised adoration. Even I felt a lump in my throat as they exchanged vows. During the service, I couldn't help but notice my parents turning occasionally to look at me instead of watching their daughter get married. It was unsettling, and the uneasy feeling from yesterday returned stronger than ever. After the ceremony during the cocktail hour, I mingled with guests while keeping a discreet eye on my parents. They seemed to be having an intense discussion with Sophia and Jackson in a quiet corner of the garden. Sophia's expression shifted from surprise to discomfort, while Jackson looked increasingly uncomfortable. When they noticed me watching, my father quickly raised his champagne glass in a forced toast, and they dispersed. Curious and concerned, I made my way toward them, but was intercepted by a server offering appetizers. As I declined, I overheard a snippet of conversation from nearby guests, asking so much of their older daughter. I heard she already paid for this whole venue. They quickly fell silent when they noticed me. Disturbed, I decided to find Sophia and ask directly what was happening. As I searched for her among the crowd, I noticed Jackson's parents looking at me with expressions that seemed oddly like sympathy. Mrs. Williams approached me elegant in a pale blue ensemble. Violet, isn't it? The venue is absolutely stunning. Sophia mentioned you arranged it all. Thank you. I wanted to give her something special, I replied, watching her face carefully. She hesitated. You've been very generous, more than, well, she stopped herself. I just want you to know that Jackson thinks the world of you, and whatever happens today, he wants you to know he had no part in certain plans. Before I could ask what she meant, she was called away by her husband, leaving me more confused than ever. The reception began with the usual fanfare, the wedding party introduction, first dances, toasts. I delivered my maid of honor speech with genuine warmth for my sister, momentarily forgetting the strange undercurrents I'd been noticing all day. As dinner was served, I found myself seated next to Jackson's cousin Adam, the very man my mother had mentioned earlier. Unlike the awkward setup I had expected, Adam turned out to be intelligent, funny, and refreshingly direct. "So you're the sister who paid for all this," he said after introducing himself. "That was incredibly generous." I laughed, surprised by his frankness. News travels fast. In families like these, at light speed. His smile was warm. "Jackson speaks very highly of you. Says you're the most impressive attorney he's ever met." For the first time that day, I felt myself truly relaxing. Adam and I talked through dinner, discovering shared interests in architecture, classic films, and hiking, a hobby I rarely had time for but loved. He didn't seem put off by my career success. If anything, he seemed genuinely interested in hearing about my recent cases. "Would you like to dance?" he asked as the band started playing again. On the dance floor, I caught glimpses of my parents continuing to whisper and watch me. But with Adam's easy conversation and the first real connection I'd felt with someone in months, I found myself enjoying the evening despite my lingering unease. "You seem distracted," Adam noted as we twirled past the head table. "Family weddings tend to bring out the strange in everyone, don't they?" I was about to respond when I felt a tap on my shoulder. My father stood there, his expression tight. "Sorry to interrupt, but we need a family moment with Violet," he said to Adam, not sounding sorry at all. Adam politely stepped back. "I'll get us some drinks. Find me when you're done." As my father led me toward a quiet corner near the head table, I saw my mother Sophia and Jackson already waiting. The tight knot in my stomach told me the moment I'd been dreading all day had arrived. Little did I know that within minutes, my mother's palm would connect with my face in front of dozens of witnesses, setting in motion events that would permanently alter our family dynamic. The reception was in full swing, crystal glasses clinking the band, playing a lively jazz number, and couples filling the dance floor. Adam and I had been dancing for nearly half an hour, and for the first time that day, I felt genuinely happy. His hand was warm against my back, his conversation engaging without being intrusive. "So your penthouse has a view of Central Park?" he asked, twirling me under his arm. "That must be amazing in the fall." I smiled, about to answer when my father appeared suddenly at my elbow. His expression strained. "Violet, we need you for a family moment," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Won't take long." Adam squeezed my hand before releasing it. "I'll wait by the bar," he assured me with an encouraging smile. Following my father through the crowd, I noticed people watching us with curious expressions. He led me to a quiet area near the head table, where my mother Sophia and Jackson were already waiting. Sophia looked uncomfortable, shifting her weight from one foot to another in her wedding gown. Jackson stood slightly apart, his discomfort evident. "What's going on?" I asked, looking from one face to another. My mother stepped forward, all smiles and affected warmth. "Darling, we have wonderful news. Your father and I are finally renovating the house. You know how long I've wanted to update that old kitchen and add the sunroom." This seemed like an odd thing to discuss at Sophia's wedding reception, but I nodded politely. "That's great, Mom. I'm happy for you." The contractors start next week. My father continued, his voice overly casual. It's going to be quite extensive kitchen master bath floors throughout. We'll need somewhere to stay during the renovation. A cold feeling began spreading through my chest as I realized where this conversation was heading. We were thinking... My mother said, her voice rising slightly in pitch, as it always did when she wanted something. Since you have all that space in your penthouse and you're just one person in such a big place. My father jumped in. We'll need somewhere to stay for about 6 months. Your penthouse would be perfect. I blinked, stunned by their presumption. 6 months. But I work from home several days a week. I have clients who... You have that spare bedroom you use as an office, my mother interrupted. And there's a business center in your building, isn't there? Really, Violet, it's not like we're asking for much after all we've done for you. I looked at Sophia, whose eyes were now fixed firmly on her wedding shoes. Is there something else going on here? My mother glanced at Sophia and Jackson before continuing with forced brightness. Well, while we're discussing it, we've also promised Sophia and Jackson they could use your penthouse for their honeymoon. They'll be staying in New York for a week before flying to Europe. Won't that be lovely? They can enjoy that gorgeous terrace of yours. The pieces suddenly clicked into place. The whispered conversations, the strange look, Sophia's aborted attempt to talk to me this morning. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. You've promised Sophia and Jackson my home for their honeymoon, and you're planning to move in for 6 months, and you're just telling me this now at the wedding. Well, we knew you'd be difficult about it, my mother said dismissively. But really, Violet, it's time you contributed to this family. Sophia is sharing her special day with all of us, and this would be a meaningful wedding gift. I looked at Sophia, whose face had flushed red. Did you know about this? I asked her directly. Before she could answer, my mother cut in. Of course she knew, we discussed it weeks ago. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. I'm sorry, but this won't work. I have important clients coming to the penthouse for meetings over the next month. I can't just vacate my home for half a year without notice. And while I would have been happy to discuss Sophia and Jackson using it for their honeymoon, if asked in advance, I can't approve plans made without my knowledge. My mother's face hardened. This is exactly why we didn't ask you earlier. Always so selfish. Always putting your work before family. Your sister has done everything right, college marriage to a wonderful man, while you've been obsessed with your career and that ridiculous, overpriced apartment. I noticed people at nearby tables beginning to look our way, drawn by my mother's rising voice. Mom, I said quietly, this isn't the place to discuss this. Let's talk tomorrow when... There's nothing to discuss, she snapped. Your sister has been nothing but supportive of you her entire life. The one time she needs something from you, you refuse. Are your precious client meetings more important than Sophia's happiness? Jackson stepped forward then. Mrs. Carter, maybe we should... Stay out of this, Jackson, my mother said sharply. This is between my daughters. I stood my ground. I'm not refusing to help. I'm refusing to have my home taken over without my consent. There are plenty of luxury hotels in Manhattan that would be perfect for a honeymoon. I'd be happy to arrange and pay for one. My father put his hand on my mother's arm as her face contorted with anger. Diana, perhaps we should... She shook him off, stepping closer to me. You've always been difficult, always thinking you're better than us with your fancy degree and your big city job. Do you know what people say? They say we failed with you. That we raised a cold, selfish woman who cares more about impressing strangers than helping her own family. By now, at least 50 guests were watching our confrontation. From the corner of my eye, I could see Adam standing at the edge of the crowd, concern written across his face. I've supported this family in countless ways, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. I paid for this entire venue. I've helped with Sophia's student loans. I've never asked for anything in return except basic respect for my boundaries. My mother's eyes narrowed. So that's a no. You won't help your sister have the honeymoon she deserves. You won't help your parents when they need you. That's not what I said. I said, crack! The sound of my mother's palm connecting with my cheek echoed in the sudden silence that fell over the nearby tables. The force of the slap snapped my head to the side and sent my diamond earring, a graduation gift I'd bought myself, flying across the polished floor. Gasps erupted from the onlookers. My cheek burned with pain and humiliation as I stood frozen in shock. "Diana," my father exclaimed, finally intervening. Sophia covered her mouth with her hands, her eyes wide with horror. Jackson moved to her side, his expression one of stunned disbelief. The room seemed to spin around me as whispers spread like wildfire through the reception. Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Without another word, I turned and walked away, my legs somehow carrying me despite the trembling that had overtaken my body. Behind me, I heard my mother's voice, still loud enough for everyone to hear. "She's always been a disappointment. Now she's ruining your special day too, Sophia." I kept walking past the staring guests, past the band that had stopped playing, straight out into the garden where the ceremony had taken place just hours before. Only when I reached a stone bench hidden behind a large topiary did I allow myself to sink down, my hands covering my face as the magnitude of what had just happened washed over me. The sound of footsteps on the gravel path made me quickly wipe my eyes. I looked up expecting to see Sophia, but instead found Adam standing there, concern etched across his face. In his hand was my diamond earring glinting in the garden lights. "I thought you might want this back," he said gently, holding it out to me. The simple gesture of kindness was almost my undoing. As I reached for the earring, a sob escaped my throat, and for the first time in years, I allowed myself to cry in front of another person. I sat in the garden, the cool evening air providing little relief from the burning humiliation. Adam settled beside me on the stone bench, respectfully quiet as I struggled to compose myself. "I'm sorry you had to witness that." I finally managed, my voice hoarse. "I'm sorry you had to experience it," he replied, handing me a handkerchief from his pocket. "That was completely out of line." My fingers closed around my recovered earring, the diamond sharp against my palm. For years, I had endured my parents' subtle put-downs and manipulations, but never had it escalated to physical violence, and certainly never in public. They've always favored my sister. But this? I shook my head, unable to finish the sentence. Adam didn't offer empty platitudes or awkward reassurances. Instead, he just listened as words began pouring out of me, years of emotional manipulation, of achievements, dismissed, of boundaries, ignored. "I put myself through law school working 3 jobs," I told him. "When I made partner at my firm, they said I was lucky. When I bought my penthouse, they called it showing off. Nothing I do is ever good enough, yet they feel entitled to the fruits of my success." "Family dynamics can be complicated," Adam said carefully. But what happened in there wasn't complicated. It was wrong. We were interrupted by the sound of approaching footsteps. I tensed, but it was Jackson who appeared on the path, looking genuinely distressed. "Violet, I am so sorry," he said, stopping a respectful distance away. "I had no idea it would escalate like that. I never would have gone along with any of it if I'd known." "Gone along with what, exactly?" I asked, my voice steadier now. Jackson ran a hand through his hair. "Your parents told us weeks ago that you had offered your penthouse for our honeymoon. They said you insisted and would be offended if we didn't accept. Then yesterday they mentioned staying there during renovations, claiming you had already agreed. And you believed them without checking with me." "I did question it," he admitted, looking ashamed. "But your mother was so convincing, and Sophia said it sounded like something you would do. I should have asked you directly. I'm truly sorry." Before I could respond, Sophia appeared beside him, still in her wedding gown, but with mascara tracks on her cheeks. "Vi, I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I knew something felt off, but Mom was so insistent that you had agreed. When I tried to talk to you this morning, she interrupted." "You could have told me later," I pointed out, unable to keep the hurt from my voice. "I know. I was afraid." Tears welled in her eyes. "Afraid of ruining everything, afraid of standing up to them. But I should have. What Mom did was inexcusable." Adam stood up. "I'll give you all some privacy," he said, but I caught his sleeve. "Stay, please." I didn't want to face this alone. He nodded, resuming his seat beside me. "What's happening now inside?" I asked Sophia. Dad took Mom to calm down in the bridal suite. Everyone's talking, of course. She looked miserable. My in-laws are horrified. Mrs. Williams is trying to redirect guests to the dance floor and dessert table. I'm sorry your wedding has been disrupted, I said sincerely. Sophia knelt in front of me, taking my hands. Don't apologize, this isn't your fault. I'm the one who should have spoken up sooner. We both should have, Jackson added. The truth is, Violet, your parents have been making a lot of promises on your behalf. They told my parents you would be hosting the rehearsal dinner too, but when that didn't materialize, they claimed you had backed out. The realization hit me like a physical blow. They've been using me as their scapegoat. It seems that way, Jackson said gently. My parents noticed the pattern and tried to warn me, but I didn't want to cause trouble before the wedding. As we talked, I began to see clearly what had been happening for years. My parents hadn't just been favoring Sophia. They had been actively undermining me, taking credit for my generosity when it suited them, and painting me as selfish when I wasn't even aware of their schemes. This isn't going to stop, is it? I said, the realization settling heavily. If I go back in there and pretend nothing happened, if I forgive this without consequences, they'll just keep pushing. Sophia squeezed my hands. I think you're right. They've always counted on you backing down eventually. What are you going to do? Adam asked quietly. I thought about it for a long moment. First, I'm going to help fix your honeymoon, I said to Sophia and Jackson. I know some people who can arrange something spectacular that doesn't involve my apartment. You don't have to do that, Jackson protested. I want to, I said firmly. You two are victims in this too. I stood up, smoothing down my dress and reattaching my recovered earring. As for the rest, I need time to think. But I know one thing. This was the last straw. I won't be manipulated anymore. Whatever you decide, Sophia said, rising to hug me. I'll support you this time, I promise. We walked back toward the reception together, but at the entrance I hesitated. Inside, I could see my parents had returned, acting as if nothing had happened, accepting congratulations from guests while shooting occasional glances toward the door. I can't go back in there right now, I admitted. You don't have to, Adam said. I can drive you home if you'd like. I nodded gratefully. I'll get your purse and wrap, Sophia offered. While she was gone, Jackson awkwardly cleared his throat. For what it's worth, Violet, I've always thought you were the most impressive member of the family. The way you built your career, your independence, I admire it tremendously. His words, sincere and unexpected, brought a fresh wave of emotion. Thank you, Jackson. Take care of my sister, okay? She's stronger than she knows, but she needs allies. When Sophia returned with my things, we hugged once more. Go enjoy what's left of your reception, I told her. This day is still about you and Jackson. I'll call you tomorrow, she promised. As Adam led me to his car, I saw my mother watching from a window, her expression unreadable in the distance. For a moment, our eyes met, and I felt something shift within me, a recognition that sometimes the most difficult choices are the ones that ultimately free us. In that moment, driving away from my sister's wedding with my cheeks still stinging, and a strange sense of clarity emerging from the chaos. The seed of my response began to take root. This wouldn't be about punishment. It would be about finally establishing the respect I had earned and deserved. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I relived the moment my mother's hand connected with my face, the gasps from the wedding guests, the burning humiliation, the beautiful view from my penthouse windows, the very space my parents had tried to claim, provided little comfort as I paced across the hardwood floors until dawn. By morning, my phone was flooded with messages, several from Sophia checking if I was okay. One from my father, a terse, "We need to talk," with no acknowledgement of what had happened. Nothing from my mother. There were also texts from relatives who had witnessed the scene expressing shock and concern. Most surprising was a message from Adam. Thinking of you this morning. If you need a friend or a strategy session, I'm here. No pressure. I made coffee and settled on my terrace, watching the early morning light play across Central Park. As a lawyer, I was trained to approach problems methodically. It was time to apply those skills to my personal life. Around 10 a.m., Sophia called. "How are you holding up?" she asked, sounding tired. I'm processing, I answered truthfully. How about you? Not exactly how you plan to spend your first morning as a married woman. Jackson and I stayed up half the night talking about everything. I've been blind to so much Vi. After you left, Mom acted like nothing had happened, but people kept asking where you were. The Williams were clearly upset by the whole thing. I'm sorry it affected your reception. Stop apologizing, she said firmly. That's part of the problem. We both apologize while Mom and Dad never do. She paused before continuing in a lower voice. You should know they're still planning to come to your place. They told Aunt Linda they'll be moving in temporarily next week, and they're telling everyone you promised us the penthouse for our honeymoon, but then changed your mind at the last minute to spite them. My hand tightened around my coffee mug. Are they really trying to spin this as me being spiteful? Yes. And there's more. Sophia hesitated. Jackson and I did some digging last night. We think Mom and Dad are in financial trouble. The renovation story might be a cover. Jackson's father mentioned that Dad approached him about investing in some business venture, but was very vague on the details. This new information shifted my perspective. I had always assumed my parents' constant requests for financial help were about control, not necessity. If they were truly in trouble, that changed things, not my boundaries, but perhaps my approach. Sophia, I need to ask you something important, I said. Have they borrowed money from you and Jackson? Her silence was answer enough. How much? 20,000, she finally admitted. For the wedding. They said they'd pay it back from their portion of the house sale, but now I'm not sure there will be much profit from that. Have they approached anyone else in the family? I don't know, maybe. She sounded worried. What are you thinking, Vi? I need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Will you and Jackson help me? Absolutely, she said without hesitation. What do you need? We spent the next hour mapping out a plan. Sophia and Jackson would discreetly ask family members about loans while pretending to thank them for wedding gifts. I would use my legal resources to check property records and any public financial information. After hanging up, I found myself staring at Adam's text. His background in finance could be invaluable, but involving him meant sharing our family's shameful secrets. After a moment's hesitation, I called him. I could use that strategy session, I said when he answered. And maybe your financial expertise, but I should warn you, this family drama goes deeper than what you saw yesterday. I figured as much, he replied. How about lunch? I know a quiet place in Soho where we won't be overheard. Over wood-fired pizza in a secluded corner table, I shared what Sophia had told me. Adam listened intently, asking occasional clarifying questions. So they're potentially in serious financial trouble using your sister and you as safety nets and manipulating the extended family's perception to maintain control. He summarized, and now they want your penthouse likely because they can't afford their own housing anymore. That's my working theory, I agreed. The question is, what do I do about it? Part of me wants to simply cut them off completely. Adam considered this. That's certainly an option. But if your goal is not just protection, but changing the dynamic permanently, there might be another approach. I'm listening. In my work, I sometimes deal with clients who've made poor financial decisions and are too proud to admit it. They need help but can't ask for it directly, so they create elaborate scenarios where others owe them assistance. Sound familiar? I nodded. The most effective solution is usually a structured intervention that offers help with clear boundaries and conditions. It forces accountability while still providing a path forward. His words resonated with my legal training. Conditional support instead of unconditional enabling. Exactly, Adam said. You have resources they need. That gives you leverage to establish new terms for your relationship. Over the next several hours, we outlined a comprehensive plan. By the time we parted that evening, I had a clear strategy, one that would protect me while offering my parents a chance at redemption, all on my terms. The next step was preparation. I contacted my building's security team to update access protocols. I had my locks changed and installed discrete cameras at my entrance. I spoke with my assistant about redirecting client meetings to our firm's conference rooms for the next month. Meanwhile, Sophia and Jackson began their discreet investigation. Their findings, shared during a video call 3 days later, confirmed my suspicions. It's worse than we thought, Jackson explained, sharing his screen with financial notes. Your father made some high-risk investments that went south about 2 years ago. They've been borrowing from family members ever since, not just us. Your Aunt Marie lent them $15,000. Your Uncle James another 12. None of it has been repaid. Dad's been telling everyone they're temporarily short because they're waiting for a big commission check, Sophia added. But Jackson called his real estate broker friend. Dad hasn't sold a property in over a year. The renovation story is definitely fake, Jackson continued. They can't afford contractors. Based on what we've gathered, they're probably 3 months behind on their mortgage. The picture became clearer with each revelation. My parents weren't just being manipulative, they were desperate and too proud to admit failure. While part of me felt vindicated, another part felt a surprising pang of empathy. They had spent decades projecting an image of success and stability. Admitting financial failure now would mean losing face with everyone who mattered to them. But empathy didn't mean enabling their behavior or sacrificing my boundaries. If anything, it strengthened my resolve to implement the plan Adam and I had devised. I need 1 more week to finalize everything, I told Sophia and Jackson. In the meantime, I've arranged something for you too. I emailed them details of the honeymoon. I'd arranged a luxury tour of Europe's most romantic cities, with accommodations in 5-star hotels and private tours of landmarks normally closed to the public. It had cost me a significant sum, but seeing Sophia's tearful gratitude on our video call made it worthwhile. This is too much, Vi, she protested. It's what I wanted to give you all along, I replied. A genuine gift, freely given, not extracted through manipulation. With Sophia and Jackson's honeymoon secured, I turned my attention to the final phase of preparation. Adam helped me identify a modest but comfortable apartment I owned as part of my investment portfolio. Currently between tenants, it would serve a crucial role in my plan. I also researched family therapists specializing in adult parent-child relationships and financial counselors experienced with debt management. I compiled a folder with all the evidence we'd gathered, adding property records, loan documentation, and a detailed accounting of my own contributions to family expenses over the years. 1 month after the wedding, I sent a group text to my parents, Sophia and Jackson. Family meeting at my penthouse Sunday at 2 p.m. Important matters to discuss. Attendance mandatory. My mother replied almost immediately. Perfect. We'll bring our suitcases since we'll be staying after the meeting. I didn't bother correcting her assumption. Sunday would bring clarity enough. As the day approached, I felt a strange calm settle over me. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't dreading a family confrontation or rehearsing ways to defend myself. I knew exactly what needed to happen, and I was prepared to stand my ground regardless of the emotional tactics they might employ. Adam called the night before the meeting. Do you want me there tomorrow? I'm happy to provide moral support. I considered his offer. Thank you, but I think this needs to be just family. I'll call you after, though. You've got this, Violet, he said confidently. Remember, you're not being cruel by establishing boundaries. You're creating the possibility for a healthier relationship. His words stayed with me as I prepared my home for the most important family meeting of my life. One that would either begin healing decades of dysfunction or end our relationship altogether. The choice I had finally realized wasn't mine to make. It would be theirs. Sunday afternoon arrived with gray clouds gathering over Manhattan, matching the somber mood I felt as I arranged chairs in my living room. On my coffee table sat 4 folders, one for each person attending the meeting, alongside a carafe of water and glasses. At precisely 2 p.m., my doorbell rang. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and opened the door. My parents stood there, 4 suitcases at their feet. My father looked uncomfortable, his eyes not quite meeting mine, while my mother wore the determined expression I knew too well. Violet, she said, leaning in for a perfunctory cheek kiss, as if the wedding incident had never happened. The traffic was terrible coming in from Boston. Richard, bring the bags. I stepped back, blocking the entrance. Leave the suitcases in the hall for now. We need to talk first. My mother's smile faltered. Don't be difficult, dear. It's starting to rain. The suitcases will be fine, I said firmly. Please come in and have a seat in the living room. Before she could protest further, the elevator opened again, and Sophia and Jackson stepped out, returning from their European honeymoon just 2 days earlier. Perfect timing. I said, genuinely pleased to see them. "Come in, everyone." Sophia hugged me tightly, whispering, "We're with you," before entering. Once everyone was seated, my mother immediately took control as usual. "Now, about the sleeping arrangements," she began. "Your father and I will take the guest room, of course. We've brought some items to make it more comfortable for an extended stay." "Mom," I interrupted. "That's actually what we need to discuss. I haven't agreed to anyone staying here." Her eyes narrowed. "We discussed this at the wedding. The renovations." "No," I said calmly. "You demanded use of my home without my consent. Then you physically assaulted me when I didn't immediately comply." My father shifted uncomfortably. "Your mother was upset. It was a momentary loss of control." "It was assault," I corrected him. "In front of 50 witnesses. But that's not why we're here today." I handed each of them a folder. "Please open these and take a few minutes to review the contents." As they flipped through the pages, I watched their expressions change from confusion to shock, and finally to something approaching fear. The folders contained documentation of everything we had discovered: the failed investments, the multiple loans from family members, the mortgage delinquency notices, the credit card debt. I had also included a comprehensive list of my financial contributions to the family over the years, totaling more than $150,000. "What is this?" my father demanded, his voice hoarse. "How did you get these documents?" "That's not important," I replied. "What matters is that I understand the situation now. You're not renovating your house, you're about to lose it." My mother's face had gone pale. "This is an invasion of privacy. How dare you? How dare I repeated, keeping my voice level. "How dare I uncover the truth you've been hiding while trying to exploit me and Sophia? How dare I protect myself from your manipulation?" Sophia leaned forward. "Mom, Dad, we know everything. The loans you've taken from family, the lies about renovations, all of it." My mother turned to her, betrayal in her eyes. "You helped her do this. We helped each other understand what's really happening," Jackson interjected. "My parents suspected something was wrong when you approached my father about that investment opportunity that made no sense." "We're not here to shame you," I said, softening my tone slightly. "Financial problems can happen to anyone. What's unacceptable is the way you've handled it, lying, manipulating, and attempting to use your daughters as ATMs without being honest about your needs." My father put his head in his hands. "What do you want from us? To humiliate us completely? You've clearly already done that." "No," I said firmly. "I want to offer you a solution, but with conditions." I pulled out another document and placed it on the coffee table. "This is a lease agreement for an apartment I own on the Upper East Side. 2 bedrooms, fully furnished, in a doorman building. You can live there rent-free for 1 year while you sort out your finances." My mother stared at the document. "An apartment, but you thought you'd move into my penthouse, yes. That was never going to happen. This is my counteroffer." "1 year isn't enough time to," my father began. "It comes with conditions." I continued, cutting him off. "First, complete financial transparency. You'll work with a financial counselor I've selected who specializes in debt management. Every loan, every credit card, everything on the table." I placed a second document beside the lease. "Second, family therapy. All 4 of us twice monthly to address the patterns of manipulation and favoritism that have damaged our relationships." Sophia nodded her agreement. "Third," I continued, "a public acknowledgement of the truth. You will contact every family member you've borrowed money from and explain the situation honestly. No more lies about renovations or temporary shortfalls." My mother's face had shifted from shock to indignation. "This is ridiculous. You're treating us like children who need to be monitored and managed." "No," I corrected her. "I'm treating you like adults who have made poor choices and need structured support to make better ones. These are my boundaries. They're non-negotiable." My father looked up, a mixture of shame and anger on his face. "And if we refuse?" I met his gaze steadily. "Then you'll need to find your own solution. But it won't involve me, my home, or my money. And I suspect, given what family members now know about the wedding incident, you'll find fewer doors open to you than before." A tense silence filled the room. Finally, Jackson spoke. "I think what Violet is offering is incredibly generous, considering everything that's happened. A year of free housing in Manhattan, professional financial help, and a chance to repair relationships. Many people would be grateful for such an opportunity. My mother turned to Sophia. And you support this ultimatum? Sophia reached for Jackson's hand before answering. Yes, Mom, I do. Violet has always been generous with her success, but you and Dad have taken advantage of that. It's time for honesty and real change. This is how you treat your parents. My mother's voice rose. After everything we've sacrificed for you. What exactly did you sacrifice for me? I asked quietly. I put myself through school. I built my career without support. I've been giving to this family financially for years while receiving criticism in return. Diana opened her mouth to respond, but something in my expression must have stopped her. For perhaps the first time in my adult life, she looked at me, really looked at me, and seemed to see not the difficult daughter she had labeled me, but a strong, capable woman setting clear boundaries. I need some air, she said abruptly, standing and walking to the terrace door. My father watched her go, then turned back to me. Can we have some time to discuss this privately? Of course. I nodded. Take all the time you need, but the offer expires today. As my parents conferred on the terrace, Sophia squeezed my hand. You're doing great, she whispered. After about 20 minutes, my parents returned. My mother's eyes were red-rimmed, but her expression was different, less defensive, more resigned. Before we give our answer, she said, sitting down heavily, I need to know why. Why go to all this trouble instead of just cutting us off? It would have been easier. It was a surprisingly insightful question. I considered my response carefully. Because despite everything, you're still my parents. And because I believe people can change when they're given the right incentives and support. I paused. Also because Sophia loves you, and I love her. My mother nodded slowly. Then to my shock, she said quietly, I'm sorry I slapped you. It was unforgivable. The simple apology, the first I could remember receiving from her, caught me off guard. Thank you for saying that, I managed. My father cleared his throat. We accept your terms, he said. All of them. We don't have much choice, but more than that, you're right. We've been dishonest with you and with ourselves. Relief washed over me, followed by cautious hope. This was just the beginning of what would surely be a difficult process, but it was a start. When can we see this apartment? My father asked. Today, if you'd like. I have the keys here. I held them up. And your first appointment with the financial counselor is tomorrow morning. My mother's eyebrows rose. You were very confident we'd agree. I was confident you'd make the rational choice once all the facts were on the table, I replied. That's what I do for a living, present clear options based on evidence. As we worked through the practical details, I felt the weight of decades of dysfunction beginning to lift. There would be setbacks, no doubt. Old patterns don't disappear overnight. But for the first time, we were acknowledging the reality of our situation, instead of maintaining a facade. When Sophia and Jackson left to bring their car around, to help move my parents' luggage to the new apartment my mother lingered behind. You remind me of myself when I was younger, she said unexpectedly, before I lost myself in trying to maintain appearances. I wasn't sure how to respond. I was ambitious too, she continued. Did you know I was accepted to law school once? No, I said, genuinely surprised. You never mentioned that. I gave it up when I married your father. It seemed like the right choice at the time. She looked around my penthouse with new eyes. I think I've been jealous of you, Violet, of your independence, your success, the life I might have had. The admission stunned me. Mom, No need to say anything, she interrupted, gathering her purse. We have a lot of therapy sessions ahead of us to talk about all this. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. You really did think of everything, didn't you? As I watched them drive away from my building, heading toward their new temporary home, rather than taking over mine, I felt an unfamiliar sense of peace. The revenge I had planned wasn't about punishment after all. It was about reclaiming my power and perhaps helping my family reclaim theirs too. I pulled out my phone and texted Adam. They agreed to everything. Are you free for dinner to celebrate? His response came immediately. Absolutely, proud of you, Violet. Looking out at the Manhattan skyline from my terrace, the home that remained mine on my terms, I realized that sometimes the most powerful form of revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting healthy. 6 months later, the autumn leaves in Central Park created a canvas of red and gold visible from my penthouse windows. So much had changed since that fateful wedding day, when my mother's palm connected with my cheek. My parents had been living in the apartment I provided following the financial counseling program with surprising diligence. Their house in Boston had been sold to cover debts, a painful but necessary step. My father had found a job at a smaller real estate firm, a humbling transition from running his own business, but one he had gradually come to accept. Our family therapy sessions had been challenging but productive. In our fourth session, my mother had broken down completely, finally acknowledging decades of favoring Sophia and undermining me. "I saw in you the independence I gave up," she had admitted through tears. "Every time you succeeded on your own, it reminded me of my own compromises." That revelation had been a turning point. Understanding the root of her behavior didn't excuse it, but it made forgiveness possible, a forgiveness I offered not for her benefit, but for my own peace. Sophia and I had grown closer than ever. Without our parents' manipulative triangulation, we discovered a genuine friendship that had been buried under competition and resentment. She and Jackson had become regular visitors to my penthouse, for dinner often bringing board games and wine. And then there was Adam. What had started as strategic alliance had blossomed into something neither of us had expected. Our dinner to celebrate my parents' acceptance of my terms had lasted until the restaurant closed. Subsequent dates revealed a man who was thoughtful, ambitious without being cutthroat, and refreshingly direct about his feelings. "I admired how you handled that situation at the wedding," he told me during our third date. "Most people would have either exploded or capitulated. You found a third option, one that preserved your dignity while offering a path forward." Today, we were hosting a holiday dinner, the first time my parents would be visiting my penthouse since the confrontation. Sophia and Jackson were already helping in the kitchen when my doorbell rang. I opened it to find my parents standing there looking somewhat nervous, but better than I had seen them in years. The financial counseling and therapy had taken visible weight from their shoulders. "Welcome," I said, genuinely meaning it. "Please come in." My mother handed me a bouquet of fall flowers. "For your table," she said, "and to say thank you for everything." The dinner unfolded with an ease I wouldn't have thought possible 6 months ago. My father talked about his new position without the defensive pride that had once characterized him. Sophia and Jackson shared stories from their honeymoon without the awkwardness that had once surrounded any mention of my financial contributions. Adam fit seamlessly into the conversation, his wry observations making everyone laugh. As we finished dessert, a pumpkin cheesecake Adam had baked, my mother cleared her throat. "I have something to say," she announced, setting down her fork. "First to Sophia and Jackson. I'm sorry for putting you in an impossible position with the honeymoon situation. It was manipulative and unfair." Sophia reached across the table to squeeze her hand. "And Violet," my mother continued, turning to me, "I'm sorry for the slap at the wedding. More than that, I'm sorry for years of making you feel that your success was somehow a problem, for comparing you unfavorably to your sister, for not celebrating your achievements." The directness of her apology, delivered without qualification or excuse, left me momentarily speechless. "What happened at the wedding was inexcusable," she continued, "but in a strange way, I'm grateful for it. It forced us to confront truths we'd been avoiding for years." My father nodded in agreement. "The financial counseling has been illuminating, painful but necessary. We've lived beyond our means for decades trying to maintain an image rather than facing reality." "We're starting over at our age," my mother added with a rueful smile. "But there's something freeing about it too. No more pretending." I looked around the table at these people who had caused me so much pain, but were now making genuine efforts to change. The revenge I had planned, forcing accountability and boundaries, had transformed into something I hadn't expected healing. "I propose a toast," I said, raising my glass, "to new beginnings and honest relationships." As we clinked glasses, I caught Adam's eye across the table. The warmth in his gaze reflected what I was feeling: pride in how far we'd all come, and hope for what lay ahead. Later that evening, after everyone had left, Adam and I stood on my terrace watching the city lights twinkle against the night sky. "You know what impresses me most about all this?" he said, wrapping an arm around my waist. "What's that?" "You could have used your leverage to punish them, to make them suffer as you did. Instead, you created conditions that forced growth. That's true power." I considered his words. I think I finally understood that continuing the cycle of hurt wouldn't heal anything. Setting boundaries isn't about walls. It's about defining the terms of engagement that allow for healthy connection. He pulled me closer against the autumn chill. "Your parents are lucky even if they don't fully realize it yet." "We're all works in progress," I replied, thinking about the journey of the past 6 months, including me. The diamond earring that had flown across the reception hall during that fateful slap now rested securely in my ear, a reminder not of humiliation, but of the moment I had finally said enough and changed the course of our family's story. Looking out at the city I loved secure in my home, that remained mine on my terms, I realized that the most satisfying revenge hadn't been about getting even or punishing those who hurt me. It had been about reclaiming my power, establishing respect, and creating the possibility of authentic relationships built on honesty rather than manipulation. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. Sometimes it's offering a path to change that nobody expected, yourself included. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? What strategies worked for you in standing your ground while still leaving room for healing? Share your experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if this story resonated with you. Remember that protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's essential for your well-being and for creating healthier relationships with those around you. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you navigate your own family challenges with wisdom and strength.